We are talking of the positive and potential negative of Olympics. Okay, so it's difficult because there are both sides to this question. There are, you see, because on the one hand, the whole situation of pitting country against country, person against person, is the competition, the idea of beating, the idea of winning over somebody else, you see. But then you have this idea of coming together for purpose of mostly joy, which is very powerful. So you see, when you have events such as these, you are dealing with two sides of nature. And it's always interesting to try and approach these things from understanding that there can be two sides, simply because then it can enable the person participating either as a athlete in the games or as a viewer of the games to make sure that it is your vibrational intent to be on one side, not the other. And one way you can do this is to simply understand that competition is really not born into mankind. People think it's born into your mind. It's not. It's not. Competition is taught. It's learned. It's not inbred. It's not. And therefore, yes, very young age, you see babies and children are very competitive. But that's only because the rules have already been established before they're even born. Are they born at the right time? Well, for some parents, this actually is an issue. Are they born at the right weight? Are they born at the right size? Are they born of the right gender? Are they born of the right race? Are they born of the right, you know? And therefore, as children born into the world, they come with a conception of competitiveness from the parents, in most cases. And then that is carried on. You see, do they sit up at the right time? Do they eat at the right time? Are they eating enough? Are they eating too little? Are they growing enough? Are they tall enough? Are they strong enough? Are they clever enough? Are they smart enough? Are they social enough? Are they? And all this is another face of competitiveness. It's a competition, you see, that you only start to compare if you are in competition. If you take the child in and of itself and you are content with that child, then you're not so worried about if they are standing early, if they are walking early, if they are talking early. And what you will find is that children, most of the time, approach this idea of learning, growth, in their own time. But when you have a society and now a world that has established so-called norms, then if your child is not living into that norm, you can start to get a little competitive that your child is not living into those norms. They're not sitting up, oh my goodness, that's a problem. They're not talking, oh my goodness, that's a problem. Well, it's not a problem until it becomes a problem. So for most children who don't talk at the time that society has determined that they are meant to be talking, they're actually not suffering in any way, shape or form until the parents start to believe that there's a problem and therefore start to cajole and start to go over the top in their implementation of certain skills and strategies, trying to get their child to become normal. So the child in and of itself is usually quite content. If they're not content, then that's usually the ones that'll be talking first because they're not content to be non-talkers. Children are much more aware than adults give them credit for. So if a child is not content to be a non-walker, it will soon learn to walk. Make no mistake. If a child is not content to be a non-talker, it will soon learn to talk. It's usually the child is very content, living its life, getting everything it needs, all its needs met, let's say, and it's the parents who are, and the doctors and the nurses, in their best interest, of course, but are the ones that are getting concerned. Well, that fear is then passed on to the child in the way that the child is encouraged, hopefully, forced, hopefully not, to catch up. So whilst there can be nothing wrong with a little competition per se, there's nothing inherently evil in trying to be better than you are. Let's put it that way. There's nothing wrong in having personal aspirations, personal goals, personal ideas of things you would like to achieve for yourself. But when all of that becomes wrapped up in a competition against somebody else, another person, another set of rules, another standard to live up to, well, then that becomes the problem. Because then you're in the negative side of competition. Then you're in the negative side. Then you're in the fierce side. You're not in the growth and expansion and the love side of competition. So if it's a personal competition that you're having, that you want to be, even if you want to be fast, you want to be fast runner and you love running and running is your thing, and it just sets most people that are very fast runners will tell you that there is a moment that they experience what people will call God, and they will experience that energy, that vibrational high of connection, and that is the reward for them of being that runner. But then you see it becomes, well, am I actually fast enough to be faster than him? Am I fast enough to be the fastest in my country? Am I fast enough to be the fastest in the world? And that's then where you start to have to really start to be strong with yourself, because you are now in comparing mode. You are now in comparing against others. And that is when it takes an awful lot to be secure and strong in yourself, to not let that comparison actually destroy the fundamental connection that was giving you to the world of energy, of the sport, the running, the whatever it is that you're doing, was giving you in the first place. The buzz, let's call it that. I don't care, that you know what that is if you've had it and you're in it. And then you start to compare. You compare with others. You compare with your running class, or you compare with your competition, your race, and you compare with your other athletes, and you compare with other countries. And it's then very difficult to be still in that state of pure energy, vibration, of connection to source, because you're saying, well, I'm very fast and I'm very happy with that, but now I know that Mr. XYZ over in another country has gone a little faster than me. So I want to go faster than him. I want to go faster than him. Now, again, to set challenges for yourself, to set goals and dreams and high vibrational attainments that you want to get is not in itself wrong. But if you're then comparing everything you do to the fact that somebody else has gone a little faster, it can be very difficult to maintain your sense of, let's just call it joy, in the event that you are practicing. And so you are constantly having to walk this line of personal joy for the very fact that you're doing what it is that you love to do, and this other side to the same coin, which is comparison and negativity, that I'm not as fast as you, I'm not as good as you. So whilst we would say that there are two sides to the coin, if you're a competitor or you're an observer of the competitor, it has to be viewed from a place of pure joy in the event of itself. So anyone who wishes to compete in, let's stick with the Olympics, but this could be for other things also. You need to do it because it's your joy. It's your love. Of course, there's Olympics, there's medals to be won, and there's competition. But do it because you love it. Do it because you love it, and there's nothing else you want to do in that moment. Then you'll be in the higher vibrational side of competition. But then it's almost impossible to do that and still walk the walk of not comparing to others. And that is on the fear side of competition. And it's almost, I would say, impossible to be both, to not be both. So that's why we would say that anything that encourages competition in and of itself isn't a bad thing, but it does also promote the negative side, which is fearful comparison. So is the Olympics a good thing or a bad thing? It depends on the people contributing to the event. It depends on the people contributing to the event. When they all come together for the joy of the sport, it's beautiful. When they compare themselves, and when the country compares them to other countries, and when the people observing can only say, oh my goodness, we didn't win that one. Oh my goodness, we lost that one. Then you're going to the dark side, the negative side, the flip side of competition. And that's obviously no help to the planet. So it's got to be down to the nations. You see, coming together for the joy of being together is always a good thing. It's always a powerful thing. And this can be in all forms. But if there is a competition element, you have to walk a very fine line of maintaining your personal joy in everything you do, of being prepared to accept what is without going into I'm not good enough. Being prepared to say that I'm loving what I am, I'm loving what I do, and not comparing to somebody else. And that's very difficult when somebody is giving a medal for if they are going faster than everyone else. How can you not compare? But you know, some do manage. Some manage to stay strong, some manage to hold to themselves and actually just every single day stay in the moment of the joy of what they are. They have personal goals, they have personal attainment, they have personal pride, and sure, they go to the Olympics, but even so then, there are a few, not many, there are a few who really genuinely are there for themselves. They are there for themselves to feel the joy of the occasion for themselves, and they manage to stop any form of comparison. They do. There are a few, very few, but there are some. Most sit in a space of comparison and flip between joy of the event, of the camaraderie, and fear of not being good enough. And therefore you have this oscillation between the light and the dark, the love and the fear. And there's not really much you can do about that when you have a competition as it is. So is it a positive thing for mankind? You make your choice. If you are positive about it, if you stay in the zone of this is a wonderful occasion, look how the world will come together, look how we can bring these events together where people from all around the world get to meet one another, get to share in a like-minded spirit the energy of something so positive. If you can stay in that space, then it's a very positive thing for the world. If you buy into my country did better than your country, and that's, you see, very difficult because that feels like a positive. It feels like I'm taking joy in my country's pride. Well, let's get into that. Do you feel joy in your country's pride? Well, pride in and of itself isn't an issue. We know that. But let's not be crazy here. Every division separates that which is. And the whole world is built on divisiveness and separation. You split people up from the moment they're born into different categories, different ways of separating them from the rest of mankind. So you have your gender, and you have your race, and you have your age group, and you have your this, that, and the other way of separating people out in order to make them separate. There's no other way, there's no other reason than labeling a boy and a girl other than to separate. If you weren't trying to separate them out, you would not have the label. Now, I'm not going to say it's wrong to have a distinction of boy and girl, but that is what it is. It's a separation from the core of what all are, which is in your core, you're all one. There is no separation. So therefore, even labels such as boy, girl don't need to exist. Now, I'm not going to say that you should work to eliminate all labels such as boy, girl. I don't see the point, and I don't see that you've got much hope. But at the same time, understanding what labels are can be very helpful. And when you have a label of a country, this is America, and this is Great Britain, and this is France, and this is Germany, etc., well, you are trying to create cohesion in a forced identity that actually doesn't exist. Let's be clear about that, because people that exist in one country live in one country simply because that's where they live, not because they are all Americans or all British or all Australian, etc. They live there, that's become the definition of the country, so therefore they are the people of that country. And then when you sit there and say, well, Britain gets behind its athletes, okay. So if you go to your inherent core, which you can, you would be behind every athlete because you would understand they are all one. Is it wrong to support your country? I probably don't suppose it is. But it is also important to understand that that level may be, quote, harmless identification with a country. But it's only that identification with a country that allows another country to go to war with another country. Let's be clear. It's the same separation and the same level of identity that enables another country to go to war with another country. Because at the end of the day, it's not country against country. It's fear against fear. And it's one person's fear buying into another person's fear that says, okay, now I no longer tolerate your fear and I need to do something about that because I'm so scared that your fear is going to overwhelm my fear. And let's go to war. And yet you say it's a country. Okay, so it's not a person sitting in an office at fear-based level going to war. It is a country because our values have been attacked, or because our rights have been attacked, or because. And by labeling the people of one nation, one country, as one, what you're trying to do is to identify them so that they will not tell you that your prejudice against another person, which is what it is asking them to ignore the base level connection of we are one. I can't go to war against myself and ever win. I can't do that. How do I fight myself and win? It's not possible. But if they can keep you into a space of, well, we're not one, they're not the same as me, they live in another country, therefore they are separate from me, well, then it's okay, I can deal with that. It's not my brother that we're fighting. It's another country, another nationality, something that is very different from me. I don't connect with that, so therefore it's okay. So it is the same idea of separation, the same idea of divisiveness that is keeping people apart. Now, it's pretty harmless when you're in the Olympics and you're cheering on your flag waver, but it also is the same tactic that will be employed to say to you, I'm afraid we're now at war. It's the same desire to make you feel that you are separate from all that exists. So I come back to the question, is it positive, is it negative? It has to be down to the person involved. If you are positive, it's positive. If it's negative, then I'm afraid it's negative. Are there issues around the Olympics? For sure. Has it been corrupted? Absolutely. Does it mean that all the people that are there taking part are part of the corruption? Absolutely not. And it can also be that the joy that is in that moment of coming together outweighs everything else. It might just be that the vibrational joy of everything coming together, which is pretty intense in these times, that you are there, that they are there, so excited, so proud, so joyful, might just be enough to tip the balance in its favor. It might just do that. With love.